Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food system storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
Today's program is brought to you by Forever Cheese, masters of the Mediterranean. For more information, visit forevercheese.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. We're a member-supported food radio network broadcasting over 35 weekly shows live from Bushwick, Brooklyn. Join our hosts as they lead you through the world of craft brewing, behind the scenes of the restaurant industry, inside the battle over school food, and beyond. Find us at heritageradionetwork.org.
Hey, this is Cynthia Cherish Malloran, Reverend DJ Cherish the Love, and you are listening to Primary Food on Heritage Radio Network. So before I forget, let me tell you how to reach out to me and get my attention on social media, Instagram or Facebook at DJ Cherish the Love, and that is love spelled L-U-V, and you can hashtag using Primary Food, Heritage_radio, and hashtag RevLove. Welcome to the 4th season of Primary Food, episode 35, to be exact. Thank you. And what exactly is primary food? So I learned this really great concept in nutrition school at IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, that the food you eat, you know, the stuff we put in our mouths, the stuff you have for breakfast, the stuff we chew and enjoy, we consider that secondary food. Primary food is everything else in life that nourishes us before we sit down and eat. And that is stuff like enjoying music, reading a book, hanging out with friends, cooking food, a great job, creative expression, playing games, exercise. And I'm so glad that I learned this because it was the high-quality primary food that I kept in my life while going through chemotherapy last year that kept me happy and healing my cancer. So today, we are going to talk about performance, creativity, coaching, and coffee as our primary foods, and how one New Yorker uses those things, that's a mouthful, to nourish others and himself. So please welcome my guest joining me in today's episode is activist and performance artist Robert Galinsky.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Robert,
Thank you.
Yes. I'm so happy you're here with me. We worked on a lot of things together. More than an activist and performance master, I would call you, Robert Galinsky is a contributing writer to The Fresh Toast, is head speaker coach for TEDx Teen, TEDx Fulton Street, and teaches writing and performance at Rikers Island Jail through the nonprofit Literacy for Incarcerated Teens and GalinskyCoaching.com. His work as an activist and artist has been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Magazine, and on The View, NPR, ABC, Nightline News, and many media outlets. More about Robert at www.galinskyplace.com. That's GALINSKY place.com. So if you're listening right now, you can call in live and chime in about what we're going to talk about. And that number is 718-497-2128. So Primary Food is produced by Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit member-supported radio station devoted to all things food. Please help keep Heritage Radio Network alive by becoming a member today. Go to heritageradionetwork.org and click on the little beating heart in the upper right-hand corner to donate. Do it now. I will love you forever and send you all sorts of good juju. So again, call in live, 718-497-2128. Robert, where do we begin?
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin?
I begin by looking at the ceiling of your studio and see these rounded corners.
Yes.
Very cool studio.
This is a very cool studio. We've got so much great vibe in here. So many great people have come in here and talked about everything they're working on. And I'm so happy that you're
so happy to be here.
You're part
Super
of the
happy.
You're part of the alumnus now.
Yay.
Yeah. So Robert, you are one of the most passionate performers I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know Robert through Coffee the Musical, I guess we could say.
Mm-hmm.
I DJ'd early Coffee the Musical events, and I did say Coffee the Musical.
That's right.
So let's talk about that combination, coffee and musical.
Okay. I feel like coffee is a social binder, and people, speaking of passion, are passionate about their coffee. And I thought it would be interesting to bring that passion to the stage. And like an idiot, I chose to try to create a musical instead of my original plan, which was to do something like the vagina monologues, but do the coffee monologues, which I think I still may do, and if somebody doesn't take the idea tonight and run with it, which could be a lot easier, I think, because musicals I've never done before, and it's certainly a science, but it's really fun. So I got together with another writer, Greg Kocher, and wrote one version of it, did a really cool reading at the Coffee and Tea Festival, New York Coffee and Tea Festival, and got some great response, but then realized 9 characters, 6-person band, we're not going to raise $7 million to do this, so we're restructuring, taking it down, but got some great songs written by these 2 incredible artists out in L.A., Mike Rickberg and Willie Wisely. And when you were involved, it was where we kind of did a mini cafe tour, a mini tour in the cafes around New York City, and, dropped a couple of songs with our live singer, brilliant Shannon Hamm, and you DJing tracks in between and talking to audiences about their coffee experiences. It was a lot of fun.
I miss those days.
Yeah, it was cool.
When life was simpler.
Oh. Post-Obama era. Here we are.
That is exactly how I feel.
Yeah, that's the sound of my heart.
Now, you had a book that went along with it.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So there's a great publishing...
And how you curated everything in it.
Thank you. Publishing company called Think Aha. Mitchell Levy is the publisher, and he said to me, hey, that's a great idea. Why don't we do a book about coffee? So his format is 140 entries in each book, 140 characters or less. So they're all like each thought, it's a thought, quote, inspiration, fact about coffee. My book's called Coffee Crazy, 140 aha coffee moments from the conference room to the kitchen to the cafe. And I wrote about 100 of them, researched and wrote, and I'm a poet, so I made some little poetry out of a couple of them. And then I decided I would curate 40 or so of them and reach out to coffee industry and see if they wanted to get a quote in a book, reach out to some of the celebs that I know, and then reach out to their celeb friends who I don't know. So one of the great things about the book for me as an experience was it's kind of like one of the strongest business cards I've ever had printed, because it's allowed me to meet people, ask for things in a way that I can still give something back, and it's great. The book it's on Amazon, Coffee Crazy. It's got quotes by Elvira, David Hasselhoff, Perez Hilton.
Do you remember any off the top of your head? There's so many.
Yeah, Elvira's is I like my coffee the way I like my men, ground up and in the freezer. And Rosie Perez is in it, and hers is Cafe Bustelo equals my sanity.
Uh-huh. I get it.
I just one more. David Hasselhoff's. Don't hassle the Hoff until I've had my Hoffy.
Oh, my God. That's so good and so bad.
Exactly. It's terrible.
Now, are you actually coffee crazy?
I'm espresso crazy.
Okay.
I do one espresso a day, pretty much one a day. If I'm out celebrating something and it's going to be a late night, maybe I'll do one late at night. But I don't drink regular brewed coffee. It kind of makes me aggravated and tense and angry. But the espresso just gives me a nice boost.
I don't want to see you aggravated, intense, nor angry.
Haven't you seen me that way yet? We've
No,
been
I
through
don't-
so much together.
I don't think
You haven't?
so, actually.
Wow.
You have not had regular brewed coffee in my presence.
Totally happens.
So how did creating the musical, what went into it, and how did it nourish you and the people who experienced it? Because you took it to TEDx Fulton.
Yeah, right.
And people received it really well. So what is that exchange of, your talent feeding us, and how does it feed you to perform?
My talent feeding others, I believe, might be, like you said earlier, watching me get into my thing, watching me be focused, let loose, watching me express and be improvisational and take on that challenge. So I think that might be, because that's what watching other great performers does. It's like, whoa, this guy's or this woman is doing something that's just going to liberate me when I leave here, whether it's intellectually or politically or socially or just artistically or even my technique, So I think that people hopefully will potentially take those things away from my performances, think about life differently, attack life a little bit more viciously, even though that word has connotations that are negative. And what does it do for me? Like I'm telling you, I get fulfilled watching people. I think the theater is church to me. The commandments are explore, say yes, take a risk, turn a mistake into something as an opportunity. Those to me are the commandments of the theater church. There's more, but off the top of my head, those are them. So I like going in there to get the scriptures from other people who have had experiences in life, as opposed to a more traditional church where I'm getting the scriptures from people who are memorizing things that have been rewritten for thousands of years and that were once written in the desert when they believed the sun was a hole in the sky.
Oh, that's very interesting. Now, what was the process for going from concept to as far as you have with the musical?
It was fun, man. Greg and I, the very beginning process was just like, let's go out and buy these giant 3M Post-its, those flip-size, chart-size ones, and cover the walls with paper and just write and think and laugh and gas each other and make up stupid songs. And then the more refined version of that is, because we had two incredible musicians working with us, Wisely and Rick Berg, we would we'd write the story a little bit, then we'd find out, oh, that looks like it's where a song should be, and this is what the song should sound like, and this is why the song is there. So what we would do is we'd write that down. We'd write down sort of like a bio for the song, why it's being done, couple of lyrics maybe that we thought might be workable, and then a YouTube video or two of other songs with the same flavor, so that our musicians would say, okay, this one is a very serious, sad song, and I'm looking at the tone of what they sent me through this YouTube video, or this one is upbeat like a Busby Berkeley song, it's just going to be wild.
Oh,
it was fun.
I think we have a caller.
Oh, good.
Maybe a coffee-loving caller. Hey, caller.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, who is this?
Hello, yeah, this is Tom in Canarsie.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
How you doing? I wasn't calling about coffee, though.
Okay.
That's all right.
What's up?
Well, I teach over at what used to be Canarsie High School.
Uh-huh. What do you teach?
And so I was interested, in you talking a little bit about what you're doing in the Rikers. What exactly are you doing there in Rikers, education?
Rikers Island Jail. I work with literacy for incarcerated teens. I use literacy, writing, words, poetry to teach that, but also to teach self-exploration, self-expression, decision-making, character building.
Oh, good. Yeah, we worked, our school was broken up. Used to be a big high school. Now it's a bunch of little high schools. And, now there's a lot of people are really into data. So I was just wondering if, you see the same thing where, like, creativity is, like, being pushed out in favor of, things you can count.
Yeah.
Great question.
Good question.
Do you see that in there, or do you get, are you like, I'm a DOE teacher, it's Department of Ed, so I don't know what, are you under that umbrella, or what's that like, and how does the culture, the climate of data affect what you're doing with your kids?
Great question.
What a great question.
Thank you.
Tom.
So, Tom, I am in the fortunate position, this particular organization does not breathe down my neck for numbers. I've been with other organizations and working with other groups where the data you're talking about is the how many pupils do you have? How many dollars go to each pupil when we divide it up? And no, we can't support that with $20,000 or $10,000 because you don't have enough kids, as opposed to just saying, well, what about the kids that are there that need it? Let's support them anyway. So I hear you, and I feel like that because there's such a obsession with fiscal balancing and revenue and matching dollars, that there are a lot of services that don't get to the kids simply because they're not, the groups of kids wherever they are, the pockets of kids where they are not large enough. Luckily, like I said, where I work, the company I work with is not, has a different philosophy. It's like if you go in there, Robert, and you go to Rikers Island Jail and one day you have 30 kids, cool. And if one day you go in there, you've got 3 kids, cool. It'll balance itself out, first of all. And secondly, those 3 kids need it. And who knows, maybe by giving attention to 3 kids for an hour, the impact might be stronger than spreading it out over 30 kids for an hour. And now we've got 3 kids who are going to be whole people going out there in the world versus 30 kids who may have gotten maybe like a diluted, watered-down version of whatever was being taught.
Thank you for that question, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I actually had just a follow-up question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, so like a lot of, I hear what you're saying about the numbers with respect to money and stuff, but a lot of times, like we're like really, it's all, our classes are basically Regents prep. It's all about the region. So is that affecting you, or can you be creative in an environment like that?
So
you got any advice for teachers out here where we don't have, sometimes we're all really pushed in one direction towards, making sure they pass that ELA region. Got it.
Your question more geared toward not like money and allocation, but more about teaching to tests. Right.
And how can you be creative? Because as I understand it, like the more you try to be creative, but the more you try to put numbers on it, the less creative it is. Because then you're trying to, anyway. Go ahead.
I think that, Tom, you gotta take the curriculum, even if it's teaching to a test. It's up to each teacher to just dig into their soul and be as creative as they can. I don't really know if I have the answer other than.
Well, we can give an example of what it's looked like. I've DJ'd with Robert at Rikers Island, and it's been more of like experimental exercises and music combined with the point of what you want to teach. Would you say, Robert, then it's great for teachers to just get more free and creative with the content?
I do, but I don't know, Tom, maybe you can tell us if you're allowed to do that, or how the teaching to tests and data limits you. I don't know. Tom, can you comment on that?
Well, a lot of it is, like I said, it's like Regents prep. So you're teaching them, we don't have really time for creative writing per se. We're more like, how are you going to write a thematic essay? How are you going to write a DBQ essay?
Yeah. I think, What does DBQ stand for? Do you know?
Data-based questions.
Database questions? Data-based questions, yeah. I mean, I guess all I can say is, or
actually, technically, see, that's for the history regions I just did today, but that's, I think maybe it's document-based. Sorry, document-based.
I guess.
I got data on my brain, You
got your data on your mind. You got your mind on on your data and your data on your mind.
I think if you think about the concept of the topic of this show, which would be nourishing the world with creativity, how can you nourish your students with that info in a creative way? And that is the challenge. That's the challenge. That's your challenge, Tom.
Tom, that's your challenge. And I think from the way you're asking your questions and the sound in your voice, you have the passion to break through the mundane, to break through that monotony and that stilted approach that you're being asked to facilitate.
You have our blessing.
Excellent. You want to write me a letter of recommendation?
Yes.
Yeah, I will, definitely.
You wouldn't have
Excellent,
called in if you
excellent.
don't have a creative bone in you to try to get our blessing. And I think you should just go for it. Go creative. Look at what these students have. You can smell. You can sniff their talents out. Speak to those talents. Like Robert and I know when we've worked at Rikers, there are very talented
Yeah, really incredible talent.
people there, and you just have to like identify it and let them shine. Thank you for calling. Tom.
I'm going to hang up and listen, but if you if you talk any more about like what exactly you're doing with the kids or want to share some of their
Okay.
stuff, that'd be great.
Cool.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
That was a great question. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that he called in and asked about that because that's important.
Well-
When you've worked with kids, young adults even, or whatever
Yeah.
age
Yeah,
people
we're
are,
all kids.
you have to speak to that creativity, right? And use that as the most important piece of expressing, right?
Absolutely. For me, I go in with a plan that I'm ready to throw out the window. And I go in literally with a bag of tricks. I mean, I've got a backpack, and it's got 10, 15 different things I can do so I can feel the room. What do they need? Where do they feel it? Where do they excel? Like, I was coming in at the beginning of it and saying, we're going to write poetry. And out of 10 kids, 6 were like, cool. The other 4 were like, I don't write. I don't write. I draw. Okay. And so that day it kind of took me back, but then I went back in and, okay, we're going to write poetry and draw pictures or write an article or an essay or a review about a magazine or write a mission statement for what you want to do. You want to be a carpenter? Write a mission statement for that. So making adjustments on the fly is something that I can do, but also you got to have an arsenal of adjustments that you can bring into the mix because not everybody wants the same thing, learns the same thing.
And learns the same way at the same
Exactly.
speed and so on. Well, this is fantastic. We're going to continue on the topic of obviously creativity, performance, and everything. We're going to take a little literal coffee break.
Okay.
I'm going to play a track from Coffee the Musical, As Hot as This Machine, it's called. So give us a little intro on what As Hot as This Machine is about.
This song is being sung on this recording by Mike Rickberg. The actual, when we go out and perform, it's Shannon Hamm. Shannon Hamm is a brilliant performer, actress, and singer. This is the song where she sings that the espresso machine is actually more reliable and enjoyable than any man she could ever date.
And here we go, As Hot as This Machine.
It's got 1,722 moving parts.
Now that's a very complicated machine.
Yeah, it's a miracle of science and a bona fide work of art.
Look at all that gleaming chrome.
I know it better than I know myself, and it warms my frozen heart. If I could find a man half as smart as this machine to get my water boiling, knew how to grind my bean, my life would be as smooth as a jar of Vaseline, and every girl would want more. If I could find a man half as hot as this machine, with half the emissions, who ran half as clean, my life would be a slow ride in a long black limousine, and every girl would want one.
But how does it work?
Starts back here with the motors and the gears make a real fine grind, and the red hot wires catch fire and things get hot in no time, and the pressure starts to build and the chambers start to fill, and a steaming jet of liquid love goes blasting right into the sky. Then the customer finally takes a sip, wipes the creamy white foam from the satisfied lips, and leaves the barista a generous tip. But she knows it was all just this machine.
I never get tired of that song.
I love that song.
I never get tired of that song.
A little funny story about that song. We played that song. Shannon performed that song live at the Javits Center at the Coffee Fest. And the reason we put that song together was we wanted one for the technicians. You know, we were thinking like the people who come in and fix them and make them.
The coffee technicians.
Yeah, the coffee technicians. Let's kind of create a song that gives a little love to those guys. I mean, that was the initial idea. It doesn't totally nail that, but it's a little love for the machine itself and the people who play with them. And at Coffee Fest, this guy pulled me aside from the booth and he was like, got to tell you something. I go, what? He's like, it doesn't have 1,422 moving parts. It's only got 16 moving parts. You might want to change that. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for fact checking that.
Well, which machine were you referencing?
Yeah.
That's really funny. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
But which machine were you?
I don't know. I'm like, I wanted to say, it's the theater. We make things up for dramatic effect. 1,422 sounds a lot more exciting than 16.
Well, I really like that guy. He wanted to like save your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he was looking out. It was cool.
No, I love that performance. When Shannon does it, it's just so funny. Everyone laughs. I have such a love for you guys when you perform because, you know, even with the spoken word that you do, and I've watched you many times do theater, spoken word, and perform things like this. I'm so not good at memorizing things. Mm-hmm. Memorization of a song, the idea of memorizing an entire musical, it's like, how? What are the tricks that you use? I ask everyone this who has come on this show and does performance and reads lines and remembers lines. Do you have tricks? Do you have methods?
I have my techniques, and the main one is that's the Muhammad Ali part of the fight that sucks. You know, he says, you know, nobody sees you doing the training, they see you in the fight. Same thing with the show. So it's repetition. It's over and over and over. And I'm learning the script for my play, The Bench. It's 42 pages, and I'm doing it all solo. So it's repetition. It's just the mundane. By day 5, you're like, wow, I actually learned 20% of it, and you get excited. If it's just one piece, a poem, I take it in sections. You know, I take it, you know, learn the first 2 lines. Good, got that down. Now add 2 more. Learn the first 4 lines. Oh, good, got that. Let's do the next 7 lines, you know. And by the end of the session, you're like I totally know the first 5 lines, no problem. And I'm familiar with the last 10, you know.
That is so foreign to me.
And you have to go to sleep afterwards, or you have to know that your sleep is going to let that embed itself in your head. In my head, anyway. I keep saying you. I like to speak in the I. So I know that, if tonight, I'll go home and read the script 3 times. And even if I don't act it out or I don't put emotions or anything into it, just registering that stuff in. Also, hearing it is important. So saying it is one way. Your body memory, your muscle memory, your mouth knows the forms of the words. It goes out into space, comes back into your ear, and you hear it. Another last quick technique is there are times where I'll record everything on a tape, and then just when I'm riding on a bus, I'm listening to the words. I'm in the subway, I'm listening to the words.
Now that's all and good if you can, remember everything. But what about once you're actually on the stage? Stage fright, anything like that?
Pre-stage, lots of fright. On stage, no fright at all.
Describe that. That's amazing.
I mean, there are times where I'm nervous and energized and whatnot, but no, because I think it's a gift. To be out there is a gift. And here's another thing that can help you reduce the stress and that fright. I look at it like, if I go on stage and I let my nervousness or my fright rip my audience off of what I could be doing, I'm not doing them any justice. So I'm kind of like, wait, I want to be an honorable person. I don't want to rip them off. So I will not let my nervousness get in the way, and actually kind of diminishes my nervousness, is because I'm like, oh, that's good of you, Robert. These guys just paid $35 for a ticket to watch you be nervous. You're in the business of ripping people off of their $35? No, you're not, Robert.
That's really fascinating. I never thought of it like that. But that's absolutely right. That's really, really special. I think I'm totally internalizing that.
Good.
When you do spoken word pieces, are they necessarily memorized, or are they off the cuff? Or
most of them are memorized. They're developed through improvisation and off the cuffness. primarily their primary food, their primary lockdown.
That's amazing. Are there foods that you find help you memorize things better or worse?
Yes. Worse would be anything like Stella, Budweiser, or Corona. Those foods don't help memorization at all, nor do indica or sativa, for me anyway. Foods that help are, bananas, oranges, any fruit.
It looks like we have another caller. Hey, caller, how are you?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Oh, sorry, I was listening and it's behind. Turn off your radio. Hold on.
You're new at this, aren't you? Who is this? You sound familiar.
So, hey, how you doing?
Hello, what's your name, caller? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Robin Selfridge calling from Manhattan.
Robin
Selfridge.
Yeah.
I've
How
met
you
you
guys
a
doing?
few times. How are you? What do you have to contribute? I know you're all about this topic.
Well, I'm not contributing. I just want to know, because I've directed the bench before, and I got tickets to the show coming up. And I just heard Galinsky promise that he's not going to rip people off. So I want to know what changes have been made. What can I expect that I haven't seen before in the bench?
Okay.
Because I've seen it before, and I loved it.
Thank you.
And that was when? The 90s?
Yep. That was the 90s.
Well, tell us about it.
Actually, could have been in the 2000s at the kitchen. Yeah, it was 2002. But you also did see it in the 90s. You saw it in the 80s. So
Yeah.
it's a piece that's been around for a while. Robin Selfridge, who's on the phone right now with us, is a brilliant improvisational artist, a brilliant painter. But as far as the stage goes, brilliant improviser. I work with him all the time when we improvise. It's tight, he and I.
And he happens to know one of our Heritage Radio Network hosts very, very well, Carmen DeVito.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I believe I'm married to her.
You might
Yes,
be
you
married
are.
to her.
Yeah.
So I thought I was married to Robin until he married Carmen, and now I... Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Tip your waitress on the way out. So,
But you didn't answer my
yeah,
question.
I will answer it. Robin directed the play, a couple different iterations of it, and part of what Robin brought to it was the forensic speaking skills, which Robin has been very well trained in and won many awards for. Which is like, where do you look? In our case, anyway, one of the techniques was, where do you look when you're talking to different characters? Because I play 5 different characters, not monologues, dialogue. So when I am one character, I have to look in a certain place in order for the audience to understand, oh, he's that character talking to that character talking to that. The difference is, Robin, is I have always wanted to figure out a way to get the guys' backstories into the play without it being schmaltzy or too... melancholy and corny and like, oh, well, what happened to me was, because they're homeless characters.
Right.
So I'm not going to tell you how I did that, but I've got their backstories into the play now, which I'm really excited about. The other thing that's different is, instead of using a set, the set itself is going to be a projection of the graphic novelization adaptation of the play. So there's a brilliant artist named Daphne Arthur who is doing the graphic novel of the play. So we're just simply going to project the pages of the graphic novel with the words on it, so people can read along if they want to. They can watch me if they want to. They can close their eyes and listen if they want to, or they can get lost in her amazing, incredibly detailed, and sometimes psychedelic drawings of the action. So the 2 new things are backstories are inserted, and the set itself is projections from a graphic novel.
Cool. Hey, the characters themselves, am I going to see the classics, or have you tweaked like
No, they're all the classics.
personas?
You got all the
They're
classics.
all the classics.
Yeah, you're going to hear Joe. And you're going to hear Marky too. Yeah.
I love that you clarified it's not a monologue.
Yeah, it's not monologue. I was watching back in like the 90s, I was watching Leguizamo do monologues and Eric Bogosian do monologues and Sarah Jones do, and I was like, you know what? I want to do something different. And I've got this play, and it's like, I put it up as a play with 4 actors in it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know what? Let's try this as a solo piece, and it works. I think it works.
So tell us, where is it going to be?
It's going to be on Valentine's evening, so I want you to come watch hearts get broken on stage and potentially mended at Dixon Place, February 14th, 7:30, dixonplace.org or com. I'm not sure, but that's where you can get tickets.
Google will tell you.
Dixon Place. And what's really fun is I want you to come on Valentine's with your date, or if you're alone, find one there. Annie Mae's Bakery out of Brooklyn, Chef Danielle from Annie Mae's Bakery is going to cook up some really sweet bakery treats that we'll serve to the audience before and after the show.
That is fantastic. Robin, thank you so much for calling
Thanks,
and bringing
Robin.
up the bench, which I was going to bring
I'm looking
up.
forward to it.
Cool. See you there.
Yeah.
That's very exciting, Robert, to put together the show that you had worked on decades ago.
Yeah, it's like a piece. I knew that it wasn't complete when I did it before. I knew anyway, from being on the inside, there were some things missing, and now I'm like, I get it. I think I get it anyway.
What helped you understand that and bring it to the surface again 20-something years later? Time.
Yep.
So tell us why we shouldn't be afraid of time.
Even though the knees get weak sometimes as I get older, I have there's a reflection, that goes on that's sort of impossible to avoid. So when I went back and looked at the play, and I've been struggling for years, every time I thought of the play, like, how do I get their backstories in it? I don't know why it hit me, but, it hit me. I got backstories. I can make it work this way.
And we have another caller.
Oh, cool.
Hey, caller.
Hello.
Hello. Who is this?
Hi, this is Barella in Brooklyn.
Hey, Barella in Brooklyn. How are you?
Hi, Barella.
I'm well. Hi. How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
Good. So I've had a question about coffee shop culture because I briefly managed a few coffee shops, independent coffee shops, and I'm a coffee lover myself. And I know that the experience of being in, a chain coffee shop like a Starbucks or, one of those big ones versus like an independent small coffee shop that has its regulars, it just has a very different vibe, and I think it kind of changes the way the drinkers kind of experience a coffee. So what are your thoughts on that?
Thanks for the question, Barella. I feel like there's something about coffee shops, whether they're corporate chains or individual mom and pops, there's still a thread that holds them together. There's still something, and it's the coffee and the way people are passionate about it and they approach it and they need or want it and they gather around it. So I do think that there's still a beauty to all types of coffee shops, whether they're chains or individually owned. There's still that there. I do also, though, think that what the corporate chains don't have is each individual coffee shop that is owned by somebody. There is a love there that is so palpable because they are in the shop. They're the ones that are decorating, enhancing, tweaking. They don't have a corporate code that they have to follow. They don't have a guidebook or manual. Maybe they are making their own up at the time, but so I feel like they're the bondage of the corporate mindset, which is a very strong bondage. It's like I was in the car today with a lawyer, Stephen Donziger, and he was talking about decolonizing our minds from capitalism. And so for me, there is that colonization in those corporate spaces that is unavoidable. There's still a tiny bit of integrity in a Starbucks simply because the bean came from the ground and the process that it went through to get here and then to be ingested and talked over or talked around or thought around. But those are my thoughts. I think that you can't take anything away, though, from the individual shops because those truly represent someone's dream of putting out a space that sells coffee and people can gather in.
I think it's such a great question, Barella. Thank you for calling and bringing that up because it brings me back to some years ago when you and I were doing shows in independent coffee shops. That's not something you can really do at like a big chain.
No,
coffee shop
and we approached.
Right, yeah.
Barella, I approached some big chains, and it was like all of the the word chain of command that they had to go through to see if this is okay, and will my superiors, see me veering off course from what we do? Will it scare people away? So there's so much less risk taking in that fearful environment by the staff and the employees that they weren't willing to take the risk. Such a big risk, right?
Huge risk. Like all those spoken word pieces you did at the coffee shops.
Yeah,
the local
and the
coffee
DJ
shops.
playing cool music.
Just frightening.
Yeah.
So I have a spoken word piece by you.
Okay. What do you have?
It's called Drunk Driver.
Yeah, Drunk Driver.
Tell us when you recorded this and what's the story behind it.
Drunk Driver. So during the 90s, there was a huge spoken word renaissance in New York City. And again, I kind of turned some of my cynicism into creativity, and I was like, everybody's talking about things that that aren't. They're just not. They're almost. There was no PSA. My mind was kind of like, I want to do public service announcement through my poetry. So to me, I was like, I want to talk about stuff like we're in the club and we're doing poems. I got my love poems. I got my goofball poems, but I'm going to do a poem that's going to like make people while they're standing in the club. Oh, see, that's what happens when you try to make people think. They hang up the phone on you. So that was it. I wanted to kind of make people a little bit uncomfortable and thoughtful while they were in the club, and I came up with a piece called Drunk Driver.
Well, let's get a little bit thoughtful and uncomfortable with this piece right now. Here's Drunk Driver.
Did you hear about that drunk driver? Did you hear about that drunk driver? Hey, did you hear about that drunk driver? He walked out of the club, unlocked his car, unlocked the club, rolled the window down, turned the AC on, rolled through the streets, red light, stop sign, plate glass window, mumbling something about his teeth being stuck in the dashboard. Did you hear about that drunk driver? She didn't pull out the 9mm or the gat. She pulled out of her parking space, sped up the curb, skipped the sidewalk, and clamped a produce organizer to the fruit bin. Did you hear about that drunk driver? Bow, bow. Boom, boom, boom. Did you hear about that drunk driver? He drove right through himself. He crushed a Mickey Mouse toy. Did you hear about that drunk driver? Hey, you heard about that drunk driver. He was at the club and said, gee, I love this place. The music, the beer, the smoke, the booze, the lights, the candles, the TV, the people, the dancing. I think I'll have another beer, 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 another beer. Celebration shot. Another beer, another beer, another beer, another beer, another beer, another beer, another beer. Celebration shot. Did you hear about that drunk driver? He drove right through himself. He slipped into his coat. He slipped into a car. He slipped into a truck. He slipped into a coma. Boom, boom, boom. Biddy-biddy-biddy-bottom. Bottom. Boom, boom, boom. Did you hear about that drunk driver? He saw the police beam flash bright so much in his eyes. He finally thought he saw the light. He finally thought he saw a putty cat. He thought he saw a putty cat in the middle of the road. And he did. So he swerved into the forest where he landed next to a toad who said, I bet I can belch louder than you. You heard about that drunk driver. He kissed his wife's beautiful lips, placed the gorgeous frame of her casket down on the photograph. He brought the family reunion to the grave. Did you hear about that drunk driver? 1, 2, 3.
Today's program was brought to you by Forever Cheese, masters of the Mediterranean. Forever Cheese is dedicated to sourcing the absolute best and most authentic products from Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Croatia. They started out with just 1 cheese, then 4, and never knew that they would have the breadth of product and the richness of working with so many fantastic producers across the Mediterranean. Michelle Buster and Pierluigi Cini have this singular vision to be the best they could be and bring products never before seen to the U.S. They were sure that with education and sampling, there was a market for such a myriad of handcrafted traditional and non-cheeses and specialty foods. Pierluigi comes from a family of cheesemakers, and after teaching Michel all he knew, together they set out one day at a time to make a difference not only in their country, but in the lives of each of their producers. For more information, visit forevercheese.com.
Robert Gilinski, thank you so much for nourishing
did you hear
us.
about that cheese advertisement?
You've nourished us,
Thank
so
you.
many of us over the years, decades, obviously, according to our callers. You've nourished us with your talent, your expression, your brilliance. Do you have words for people on the verge of expression? This is a really important time in our culture where people are kind of, angry or just, it's a good time to start getting creative, I think. Do you have something to say to those people to get them expressing and getting out there?
The thing is to fight back every moment of every day with your creativity, with whatever you call your creativity too. Some people that's starting a business, some people that's doing painting, some people that's teaching a class, exercising, whatever it is. Don't get down. My friend Mark Levin, who made the documentary Rikers recently, which is a great documentary, said that he was a young man and he was campaigning for McGovern against Nixon. And McGovern lost to Nixon, and they were distraught. They were destroyed. And Mark was at the Javits Center when Hillary lost a couple of months ago, and he said the same energy. They were just devastated. But he said that 18 months later, Nixon was impeached. So it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It is if you're going to give up, but it's not the end of the world. We don't know how this is going to turn out. Keep fighting. Keep believing what you believe and making it heard. And that's all I can say. Nourish the world with your drive and your desire.
And what happens to you personally when you don't create?
I spin in that spiral into that space where I want to just not exist. So I don't feel good at all. I feel terrible.
So if you can relate to that and that sounds familiar to you, just listen to what Robert said. This is a time to, if you're on the verge of writing that song, write the song, write the poem, do the painting, cook the meal, do that primary food that's going to nourish others and nourish yourself by the nourishing of others. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. This is really special.
Thank you, DJ Cherish.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Primary Food. Primary Food is produced by Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit member-supported radio station devoted to all things food. Help keep Heritage Radio Network alive by becoming a member today. Go to heritageradionetwork.org and click on the beating heart to donate. Do it now. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be, and realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next farm bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.